I mean, I was expecting a lot from Wild Card Weekend, but I didn't think it was quite going to live up to the super part of it, but it did. So let's recap what happened. We'll be coming out with our predictions for the next week later. Let's have a good time talking tonight about more football. And ladies and gentlemen, we're back with another episode of the one and only Allied Rivals podcast. You already know who it is. My name is AJ Herschel, the Kid, and I am here with my man, Cade Bauer, who still doesn't have a nickname yet, but we're working on it. Right. How you doing, man? It's been a second. How you doing?
Yeah, been a little bit. Doing real good. Yeah.
Nice.
And that's pretty much it.
That's pretty much
I guess I'll just say grandparents came to our house, so that's been a lot of fun having them here. But
that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Nice.
Going with the flow of school and everything. But how about you, AJ? You got anything exciting or disappointing?
School's back in for me. On Tuesday, we went back, so it feels like I never left. Watching a lot of movies recently. Saw Sherlock Holmes with RDJ for the first time. That was a fun one, if weird. Other than that, did well. Bears losing stinks, but we'll talk more about that. And Alabama rolled over Ohio State, so that was fun to watch. And if you're asking me, AJ, you're a Georgia fan. Why were you going for Alabama? Well, guess who I hate? Auburn. Who is Auburn's biggest rival? Alabama. Dude, they win. That makes more Auburn fans upset. That's cool with me. So I ain't got no problems with that. But good week. And we're back on the Allied Rivals podcast. So anytime we're here, I'm having
always
a
good.
Be sure, anyone, if you're watching, to watch some more of our Allied Rivals shorts, quick 5-minute opinionated videos and sports videos. We haven't come out with one of those in a month, but we've got some in the works, so we will definitely be coming out with more of them soon. There's a decent amount of news, but we'll try to get through to it because we just really want to talk about the games today. This is mostly in other sports. First of all, the NHL will play despite they're expecting heavy losses in terms of money. Opening night is actually tonight. My Blackhawks get to take on the Lightning, which is going to be That's going to be frightening. But anyway, hockey's back. I'm excited about it. NBA is also going to be coming back. They've had a decent amount of games postponed, canceled, teams playing with 6 players due to COVID-19. But the biggest news out of all of it, just a couple hours ago, one day away from saying his team wasn't good enough, James Harden is officially traded to the Brooklyn Nets. Oh my goodness. Cademan, if Harden goes there and performs like he does in Houston, the Nets are my instant East front runners. What are your thoughts about this?
They're just so overpowered now. I mean, they have all the weapons they need. They got guys that can go off the board, assists, points now, even more so with James Harden. And they're a good defensive team too already. And then James Harden has great hands. It's going to be a monster team.
Yeah, it's going to be freaky. Of course, they did lose Karis LeVert. He's going to the Pacers. This was actually a 4-team trade between the Rockets, Nets, Pacers, and Cavs. And then the Rockets originally got LeVert, flipped him for Victor Oladipo and some other players. And to be fair, I think the Rockets did well. The NBA is like a society where you have to trade almost everything to get your stars. We've seen a lot of teams try to do that this year. And the Nets gave away 3 first-round picks, and they swapped 4 first-round picks over the next 6 years. So they are all in this year. And if Kyrie comes back, if he shows up, they probably have the best trio in the league because you've got the best ball handler in the league, arguably. You've got a former MVP in KD, and then you're going to add a guy who can put the most points on you in the littlest amount of time. I can't believe it. I can't believe they got it done. It's crazy.
And we already thought they were a monster team before James Harden was there.
Oh, yeah. We already knew they were going to be good. And we'll talk more about the Nets and the NBA as well. We're going to be coming out. We have a bunch of videos planned. MLB starts up in a couple months. We'll be sure to get a video on that. The NBA is already part of the way through their season. We'll be sure to do an episode on that soon. And we've been requested an NHL video. We'll keep that in the works. We'll see. We might throw that in as a part in one of our episodes. But for right now, let's talk some more about the NFL. Other than the playoffs, there were a lot of coaching decisions that kind of floated around. First of all, my Bears lost Chuck Pagano because he retired, which I did not see coming at all. Basically, everyone else in Chicago is coming back. Nagy's coming back. Ryan Pace is coming back. Inexplicably, the two of them are going to be together for a fourth year. But I didn't see our DC leaving.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he was just tired of being like the coordinator of a great defense where the offense could never really get it going. I don't know. Maybe that was it. I mean, whatever. The Bears are still gonna have a lot of players, a lot of their defensive guys. So I think they'll still be fine on defense.
We already got a man in the comment section, or a guy, Lightning Bauer, always showing up. Good to see you, man. He says, Packers will beat the Rams. Unfortunately, this isn't our prediction video, but we will be coming out with that later in the week, so be sure to have notifications on. And he still brings up, despite the fact that they'll get Harden and Katie and Kyrie, they're still the Nets.
Still the Nets.
But as all of us like to remind Stephen A., it still could be worse, because you could also be the Knicks. It could be so much worse. But let's get into more NFL talk now. The Seahawks released, or more mutually agreed to end the relationship with offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer after a weird Seahawks offensive year. It was very confusing to me.
Yeah, I mean, Russell Wilson, we saw like for the first 5, 6, maybe even 7 weeks. He looked like he had a chance for MVP, and then it got kind of dragged off. Their run game never truly got going too much because they had injuries coming all over the place. Their offensive line didn't seem to get any better over the year. Russell Wilson started throwing a lot of interceptions, so it just kind of went downhill for their offense.
Yeah, and this is kind of what we've seen. We talked about this on Roto Hackers a lot because it affects his fantasy production, but Russell for the last 3 years always starts out like crazy and then tapers off at the end of the year for one reason or another, whether it's due to wide receiver core getting injured, whether it's due to a tougher schedule, or whether it's due to the run game becoming more prevalent. I don't know. Maybe the Seahawks do need something different, but it is nice to see a relationship just kind of like mutually both of them saying, all right, we're done, instead of just an entire mess like with a lot of other teams this year. And speaking of messy relationships, Dan Quinn, after leaving Atlanta, is going to be going to Dallas as their DC after they already fired their DC after one season. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know what he's gonna do. I mean, we've all seen what he can do.
Yeah.
And is that gonna change with the Cowboys?
It could. I mean, they definitely have the talent.
Yeah, I mean, I really trust their linebacking core
when they're healthy.
More than anything else when they're healthy. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe Dan Quinn's gonna work a miracle in Texas. I don't know.
Maybe. Offensive lineman Anthony Costanzo officially announced his retirement from football. The Indianapolis Colts, legendary offensive lineman. Broncos hired former Vikings, I guess you could say higher up, George Patton as their general manager. And then then two more. Gus Bradley is hired as the Raiders DC now, trying to bring some more heat over there. They definitely needed it this year. And then the biggest news out of all of them, Eagles head coach Doug Pederson is out 3 years after his team won a Super Bowl. Cademan, does this surprise you at all?
I'm a little bit surprised because especially at the end of the season, it seemed like he was starting to get things going with Jalen Hurts. I mean, Carson Wentz is old, beat up. He doesn't have an offensive line. But Jalen Hurts kind of looked like he was bringing some life to the team. He doesn't need an offensive line because he has a dual threat. I don't know. He just made the game so much more alive. I mean, the Eagles defense wasn't bad. The problem was that the offense just couldn't score at all. So it made the defense look bad. Yeah, I think it was maybe not the right thing to do. I mean, he won a Super Bowl. What'd you say, AJ? Like
3 years ago.
3 years ago. Yeah. So, in my opinion, not the right decision.
Yeah, it's definitely confusing. I know that he had a meeting with management on what he wanted the team to do in the future, what his plan was. And I mean, it has been a steady decline in Philadelphia that I don't think is all his fault. Yes, the defense has been a mess for 2 out of the last 3 years. Yes, Carson Wentz has regressed incredibly, but what else has happened? Your offensive line can't stay healthy. And Caban, name one Eagles wide receiver that hasn't gotten injured over the last 2 years other than Greg Ward. Everybody's gotten injured. Rager, Jeffrey, Jackson, you name it. They have been depleted. Zach Ertz has been banged up. Goddard's been banged up. Nobody in Philadelphia is healthy. Their problems to me run deeper than just the coach. It's the fact they haven't even been able to put together a team half the time that can play offensive football. I think he will go somewhere. He's definitely a bright guy, but this does make you wonder how much of their Super Bowl hinged on A, Nick Foles, B, their great offense, and C, the offensive coordinator Frank Reich, who's now made a very good offense of what a lot of people would not expect to be incredible players in Indianapolis. So it is a little shocking to me that he's not going to return for another year, especially when Nagy is. But I guess Philadelphia is going for an entire teardown with Dallas coming out, the Giants starting to play well-ish, and the Washington football team winning the division. They really are the lowest rung in the NFC East right now. So from that perspective, it doesn't surprise me as much.
Yeah. I think they should have given him. I mean, like you said, I might disagree with you a little bit on the defense. Their defense with like Fletcher Cox, and they've at least had somewhat of a secondary. I mean, it hasn't been spectacular
this year, at least. Yeah.
I'm gonna say it again. I think it was just maybe a year too early, because I would have liked to see what Doug Pederson could have done with more time to scheme with Jalen Hurts, to actually have an offensive line that didn't get like 15 different rotations throughout the year. I don't know, whatever. Maybe they know what they're doing, but
There you go. And also, John Schneider is extended to say he's the general manager of Seattle for the next 6 seasons. Not surprising.
It's kind of surprising. Really?
You think so? Really? So why do you think it's so surprising?
I mean, maybe it's not surprising, but maybe it's just surprising that they're giving him such a big extension. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, I can see the 6 years maybe being a little long, but I mean, this is a guy who's helped take your teams to multiple Super Bowls, winning one of them, and at this point, he made a great trade for Jamal Adams. When he was healthy and Carlos Dunlap showed in, the Seahawks flipped from one of the worst teams in the league to one of the scariest defenses to get blitzed by, because Jamal Adams is a cross-field player. So he definitely has made good moves. I can see what you're saying for the length of the deal, but I think he has done well in helping build the Seattle team that's basically perennially the NFC West champions.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was just kind of thinking about if they can't really get Russell Wilson to go anywhere. Like, I mean, if he keeps kind of declining a little bit year by year, it seems like, well, maybe not like that, but their run game can't get going ever since like Marshawn Lynch, at least not much. I mean, he's a dude. He's amazing, and he has been for a long time. But I just think the 6 years was maybe a little long.
Okay, fair enough. Now it's time to talk about Wild Card Weekend. It was a fun weekend. The games were exciting. They were competitive. Keep how about we go in the order the games happened? How about we do that? All right, perfect.
All right, sounds good.
Starting out with the Buffalo Bills handled the Indianapolis Colts in a tough game, 27-24. What were your reactions to this, Caban? It was a solid competitive game.
It was a really good game. It looked like, the Bills took a somewhat early lead, but the Colts were able to slowly come back. Jonathan Taylor had a nice game. The Colts offense had an overall really nice spread out game. It wasn't all Jonathan Taylor. It wasn't all Phillip Rivers. There was some good stuff. I think some of the coaching kind of went a little off for the Colts. I personally think that the Bills maybe outcoached them in this one. There were a lot of plays where I felt like the Bills secondary really knew what the Colts were doing a lot of the time on like their play actions or like fake handoff, like RPOs. I just felt like the Bills outcoached the Colts on this one, but nevertheless, Colts still had a good game. They're still a good defense. Their offense has been looking a lot better since Jonathan Taylor's been used more.
Yeah.
But this was a close game and one I did not really expect.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about the Colts defense and how good they are. And I mean, yeah, the Bills are definitely going to get tested against the Ravens defense. I think this was a good opening show for Buffalo to go in and beat Indianapolis. You've talked about it before. I think one of Buffalo's problems is their lack of a run game outside of Josh Allen. They are inefficient. They're not very good at running the football, and they don't run it much. That the entire offense runs through Josh Allen. So that is a little bit worrying for the future, but their wide receiver core is still great. Gabriel Davis is an incredible deep threat. Cole Beasley's had a renaissance in his career as a Bill slot receiver. And Stephon Diggs just continues to put up Tecmo Bowl type numbers, Jerry Rice type numbers in Tecmo Bowl. He's his hands are soft. He's a great route runner, and he catches touchdown passes. And on the Colts side, Taylor had a little bit of a rougher game. It took him 21 carries just to get to 80 yards. So, I mean, and 4 yards a carry isn't bad, but this is a guy who broke out for 250 yards in his last game.
Yeah,
and to be fair, the Colts did have a decently easy path to the end of the playoffs as well. They finished off with Jacksonville, but the Colts are a good team. Michael Pittman had a very good game. We're finally starting to see him break out, not as much as Justin Jefferson, but having a decent rookie season as well. I think the Colts just need another wide receiver playmaker or two, and they can make it through that next make it to the next barrier, the next section of the AFC playoffs. But good game from both sides, I think, and I'm excited to see the Bills in the next round and what the Colts do next year.
Yeah, same, man. I think Jonathan Taylor is really going to become a big threat. I mean, this is if Jonathan Taylor had been playing all year, getting that many carries, he could have made a case for rookie of the year. In my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, it stinks that he was banged up for those 3 weeks with an ankle injury and annoyed the heck out of all fantasy owners. But I mean, once he hit his stride late season, that is peak JT. And yeah, you're right. Expect to have seen next year. Brett D in the comment section. Once again, good to see you, man. He's always hanging out with us. Says he's watching from Aquascape. I'm going to be honest. I don't even know what that is.
Go search Aquascape or the Pond Guy on YouTube.
Okay. Aquascape. There we go. Everybody look it up. What's up, Brett? Let us know what you thought of the initial wildcard weekend. Next game that happened was another fun one. And I say it like that because it's a little bit weird, but it was a fun game. Rams needed Jared Goff to help come in and save the day since their hero John Wolford went out early. I think this just proves the Rams defense is good. They are very, very good. They held Seattle to 20 points. They win 30-20 with a banged up Jared Goff, shot out to a 20-10 lead in the first quarter and held it for the rest of the game. Cayman, what were your thoughts on the Rams this week?
I mean, just their defense. I think it was who was the first one with the interception? Was that Williams?
I think it was Darius Williams. Yep.
Yeah, Williams. I mean, he's just a beast. He reads the quarterback as good as any in the league. And he just made it tough for Russell Wilson all night. He really frustrated him. Really frustrated DK Metcalf early in the game, which that is sometimes good because I don't know, sometimes Wilson doesn't throw it to him as much, or he'll just get so upset that he starts dropping passes. Or sometimes you don't want to do that as a defense because then he wants to go like beast mode on you and absolutely demolish you. And he didn't really have a huge chance to do that. He had a decent game of 96 yards and 2 touchdowns actually, but those were kind of I think one of those was later in the game. I mean, the Rams defense was just so good. They played really well on Tyler Lockett the whole game.
Yeah.
I mean, run game never gets going with the Seahawks.
Well, I would actually disagree a little bit there, though. I mean, Chris Carson, he averaged 5 yards a carry. He had a good game.
Yeah,
I think. I think the thing with Seattle is that they cannot stop the Rams pass rush. at all. I think they need an offensive line rework. It's not bad, but Leonard Floyd himself has like 7 sacks on Russell Wilson this year.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
Totals against Seattle. I think they need to rework that front 5 because Russell gets knocked down so much against the Rams. And I know part of it is a division game. These two coaches know each other. These two teams know each other. But Leonard Floyd has already had a good year, and he had a great season against Seattle alone.
Yeah. And I mean, stunning injury, John Wolford. He just on his second offensive drive, he got that neck injury. Hoping he'll be okay. But Jared Goff came in, threw an interception, and didn't have to do much else. Just to
Jared Goff
kind of keep things alive.
He didn't throw a pick. He went 155 with the touchdown.
I mean, a touchdown. Sorry, touchdown. That's what I meant. Yeah, but Cam Akers really was the one that kept the offense going, and it did just enough to keep the defense out of range for the win in the last fourth quarter minutes. But hey, they got it done. The Rams are the best defense in the NFL, or at least tied for best. Right?
Yeah, I think they're definitely up there, if not number 1. They're definitely up there. Yeah, they've been incredible. Cam Akers and rookie running backs in general this year. Cam Akers, Jonathan Taylor, James Robinson. It has been a great year for rookie running backs. Jared Goff didn't look great, and Wolford is going to – we don't even know what the Rams quarterback is going to be next week because Goff is still, I guess, in rehab. And Wolford had a stinger, fortunately, so he's okay. He may be back next week. We don't even know who their starter is going to be. But as long as the Rams have that defense, there you go. Everybody on the Rams is banged up. But their run game is great, and that's what everything goes through. And so, I mean, they got to win when they needed it. And on top of that, they got to win over their biggest rival. Now, the question is whether they're going to be able to hold on to it against the Packers next week is for a different episode. But for this week alone, solid job from them. Moving on to the final game of Saturday night, and a little bit of a surprise. The Washington football team offense put up a good game, not through Alex Smith, but through Taylor Heinicke, who threw for 306, a touchdown and a pick. And look, let's just go ahead and get this out of the way. The Bucs won. We know the Bucs did what they needed to do, and they got to win. Brady threw for almost 400 yards. Fournette had almost 100 yards and a touchdown, average 5 yards a carry. They won the game. But who expected the 4th string quarterback to come in against a top 10 NFL defense and throw as well as he did? Crazy. It's crazy.
He was amazing. I mean, he was running in and out of those little defensive holes that the offensive line created. And he was just doing things that not many other quarterbacks can do. I mean, besides like Kyler Murray, Lamar, and a couple others. I mean, he was scrambling as well as any quarterback. He was moving. That guy had some speed, man. That guy was crazy and really fun to watch. I was kind of hoping he could pull the game off. But Washington's defense, especially Chase Young, could not get to Tom Brady. I mean, I think they got like, what was it, 2, maybe 3 sacks, but Chase Young was not effective at all.
1 sack all game from Montez Sweat. That's it.
That's it? Really?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
Or actually, my bad. Sorry, my bad. 3 total. 2 from Daron Payne, 1 from Montez Sweat. There you go.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, they just really took out Chase Young right from the beginning. And that's what really helped them open up the run game. I mean, they use like, I think they have like one of the least, what's the word? They give Leonard Fournette like one of the least carries for a starting running back in the NFL. And he still put up 5 yards a carry, got the 93 yards and a touchdown. Taking out Chase Young, that's just kind of where it all started for the Buccaneers. I mean, they have a great offensive line, and it just worked, and they took care of things, took care of business.
Yeah, I think this also showed Mike Evans is fine coming off of his injury. 100 yards, 6 catches. That's a Mike Evans day. He's going to be good to go. Chris Godwin as well got himself a touchdown. Antonio Brown has just become a touchdown magnet now for over the last 4 weeks. I think touchdowns in each of his last 4 weeks. The Bucs are definitely going to give the Saints next week a run for their money. They're a great team. They're finding their stride. And yeah, I know everyone talks about Chase Young and how he's had a great rookie year, but Montez Sweat is actually the sack leader in Washington, and he's had a good year as well. And Washington finished strong, better than any thought they would. There's definitely going to be questions about their quarterback position next year. There's definitely going to be questions about their wide receiver depth next year as well. I know Cam Sims had a good game, but players have good games all the time. Terry McLaurin, we know, is their number one. I don't know how it's going to be for the rest of the year, but barring Dak coming back and being incredible again, Washington is my front runner with that defense right now for the NFC East.
Yeah, they're a great defense. They have a lot of young guys that can learn a lot, and it's going to be a good team. But AJ, what is our next game?
3 more games left. All the Sunday ones. Ravens got vengeance on the Titans. Lamar had never been able to beat Tennessee. They're seeing flashbacks of last year's divisional round, but this time the Ravens shut down King Henry. It was all over. Ravens dominated the game. Kind of. They still only made it out with 20 points. What were your thoughts, Cayman?
I mean, yeah, like you said, took out Derrick Henry right from the start. He averaged 2.2 yards a run, got 40 in total. Didn't get into the end zone. Ryan Tannehill didn't have a good game at all. He only threw for 165 yards. Interception, only 1 touchdown, which went to A.J. Brown, who A.J. Brown had a decent game, but no one else really did anything for the Titans offense. I mean, they had a decent special teams game, and that was pretty much it for the Titans. I mean, Ravens, they just used their run game over and over. And it worked.
Yeah, that Ravens run game, I think, is definitely the best part, because you can look at the scoreboard and just go 20-13. That must have been close. And to be fair, the Titans jumped out quick. Like, they dominated early in the game, totally picked off Lamar Jackson and totally misplay by him. Dominated at the beginning. But after that, it was all Ravens. And I think the big part of why they have a low score is because they run the ball so much. They run the clock so much. Lamar Jackson had 136 yards. J.K. Dobbins averaged almost 5 yards a carry. Gus Edwards averaged almost 5 yards a carry. Hollywood Brown finally has exploded in the second half of the year. We've been waiting for this the entire season. And finally, the Ravens are starting to put together a functional offense that's moving very, very well. Mark Andrews, of course, has always been solid. I think the Titans' big thing is that Corey Davis has been completely eliminated from even doing much 2 out of the last 3 weeks. I think that's a big reason why they just couldn't throw the ball well the entire game. Ravens totally get all the credit for shutting down Henry. They did a great job this week, but they had A.J. Brown, and that is it. Corey Davis, 2nd out of the last 3 games, 0 catches for 0 yards. You can't have that happen to your number 2 receiver. I think that is one of the biggest reasons why the Titans lost, because Ryan Tannehill is a very good quarterback. He showed us this year. He's mobile. He's pretty accurate for the most part. Doesn't throw many interceptions, but he basically only had 1 wide receiver this game. You got to take care of that if you want to go in and beat Baltimore. Baltimore's defense and one run game totally won them the day, but they get a tough matchup next week against Buffalo. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, that's another episode.
2 more games. First of all, the Saints took care of business against the Bears, 21-9. You talk about it first so I can get my thing over with when you're done.
All right. Yeah, it's the Saints, and no matter how injured they are, which I guess they weren't too injured, they got a lot of guys back. Alvin Kamara had a just under 100 game, averaging 4 a carry, which isn't bad on a Bears defense. Drew Brees had a pretty good game. He got the two touchdowns, 260 or so yards, I believe. Deontay Harris had a good game. He was kind of the Saints' number 1 receiver for that. He was averaging 11 a reception. He was doing a really good job, especially in the middle of the field. And then Michael Thomas was looking really good, 73 yards in total. Mitch Trubisky had just under 200 yards and a touchdown. He didn't throw an interception, which against the Saints, that's incredible. But David Montgomery never got it going, and really none of the wide receivers on the Bears were consistently open. Your top of the game was Allen Robinson with 55 yards. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Saints took care of business because the Bears couldn't play offense.
Yeah. Saints won. Credit to our defense. They held Drew Brees and Alvin Kamara to 21 total points. And half of the game, or over half of the game, was 7-3. They played well. I will give them all the credit they need in the world. Our defense is great.
Yep.
And look, I don't even hate Trubisky. I think he's fine. He's a fine quarterback. He's inconsistent. He is inconsistent as heck. But Cayman, here's the thing. I have to watch this team week in and week out. And I think the problem is deeper than Trubisky. He's fine. But our playbook is horrible. We throw slants every other play. We run runs up the middle every other play. And we had 4 great games against some of the worst defenses in football. Our passing game is mediocre. Our routes are bad. And what stinks is that knowing this would have been a closer game had we had our full team. We didn't have Buster Screen. We didn't have Jalen Johnson. That's 2 of our top 3 corners out. On top of that, we didn't have Anthony Miller for half the game. Darnell Mooney was already injured. Anthony Miller got himself ejected, and Javon Wims dropped a touchdown. So if Anthony Miller's there, I don't think the score changes. I think this game is over. And if what's his name? If Javon Wims catches the touchdown pass, which he definitely should have, this game I think is 21-17 or 21-20. It's close because then we actually have momentum at that point. But the fact that our offense did absolutely nothing. Yeah, Trubisky threw for 200 yards. He averaged like 2 yards a pass. It was terrible. Our problems are deeper than just Trubisky. It's the playbook especially, and they shut down Montgomery. We could talk about this later once we do our end-of-season recap. I'm done talking about the Bears, if I'm being honest.
All right, let's move on.
Final game, and this one was maybe the craziest out of all of them. Not only do the Browns win, they roll over the Pittsburgh Steelers 48-37. Mayfield throws 3 touchdowns. Roethlisberger throws 4 touchdowns and 4 picks. And on top of that, this game was blowout from the beginning. Pittsburgh tried to bring it back, but a fourth quarter surge from the Browns ended it right where it was. Cademan, we expected the Steelers to put up more of a fight. They had Ben back. They had their defense back. They had Ebron back. And they just got rolled. What they got rolled? What was your reaction?
Well, if you were watching the first quarter, which I was, you saw the Browns put up the most points in one quarter, I think, or at least in the first quarter in playoff history. Ben Roethlisberger got so frustrated when who's their center? Is that Pouncey? Steelers center. Pouncey. Yeah. Terrible snap, way over Ben. And Ben's a big guy, so that means that thing was high. So he was frustrated with that. But then he kept throwing interceptions. Well, he had like 2 or 3 more interceptions that quarter.
4 touchdowns, 4 picks in the game.
Yeah, I mean, overall, he had a really great game. He threw for 500 yards, but it was just too late. The Browns got the 28 points in that one quarter, and then in the second half, they came out and just kind of played enough so that it was impossible for the Steelers to catch up because Steelers kept thinking, oh, man, we can catch up. It's like the time. But then they didn't play defense was the problem. Ben played fine outside of the first quarter, but their running game was like usual, maybe a little worse. But I mean, Juju had a great game. Deontay Johnson, James Washington, all those guys were really effective, and Chase Claypool was really great in the end zone. The problem was the defense, which we don't see a lot from the Steelers. When we look at the Steelers, we're like, wow, like that's like, what are they more known for, their offense or their defense? And it's their defense. I mean, their defense got them through. Not completely, but they're the reason they got to the 11-0 more so than often. And they were not effective in the game at all. They're just letting the Browns go down and score nearly every time.
Interesting. I have almost a different take. I'm not putting this on the Steelers defense that much. First of all, I think the Browns definitely played well. Their defense played extremely well. Unfortunately for Ben, over 3 of his picks were flukes. 3 of them bounced off of players' hands, and then there was a linebacker or a safety or a cornerback right behind him. His last pick was a horrible read. But the other one bounced off of Ebron's hands. Second one bounced off of somebody else's hands right at the beginning of the game. Why are they in a 7-0 hole? Because Marquise Pouncey snapped it over your head. Ben had a Jameis Winston type game, we could say, throwing as many picks as touchdowns, but half of those were drops from his receivers, and that really stinks for him. And then the defense as well, I don't even want to pit it too much on them because the Steelers kept turning over the ball. They were already in a 7-0 hole from the touchdown. The Browns only needed 40 yards after Ben threw his second pick, and then after he threw his second pick, they had 15 yards to go. The Browns were basically at the goal line every single time. And you've got, believe it or not, Caden, the Browns actually have the number 1 offensive line in the league statistically. I had no idea. And Nick Chubb tore him apart because he's one of the best running backs in football. Yeah, the Steelers defense had a bad game. For 2 quarters, they held a great offense to only 7 points in the second and the third. But then once you reach the end of the game, just the offensive mistakes caught up to them. They're being put on the field over and over and over again.
Yeah, it was just a mess. I mean, the defense just couldn't get it going. I think that was the problem. Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see what the Steelers look like next year because you've got this young receiving core, no running game, and Big Ben's 36.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're going to do.
And to kind of say something off of Ben's 4 picks.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, like you said, one of them, he did not read the defense
the last one.
That was bad. But there was at least one more, maybe 2, that were just too high or behind the receiver. And I mean,
yeah, that's the screen pass you're thinking of. That was the screen pass.
Okay. And I mean, you make those mistakes, but it's not like Ben to throw 4. Just, I mean, it's every once in a while, but it's not like your typical Ben to throw 4 interceptions. And like once he throws 2, he's really more conservative with the ball. Yeah. The problem was he couldn't be because he had to get his team to a comeback.
Yep.
And he never could.
Yep.
So.
Rough end to the year for a team that almost went undefeated for most of the year. I'm curious to see what they do next year. But the Browns get KC, which we will talk about later in the week. So, guys, you have to be sure to be watching with notifications on because we're going to have our predictions for the next 4 games in the NFL. And on top of that, we got a lot of other videos down the line, NBA, NHL, college football wrap-up, MLB as well. We've been asked for a free agency video. We're in the works on that. But it was a crazy, fun week. Anything you want to take away from this week, Cayman, from the wild card week?
Yeah. I mean, I think we're watching the best of the best now. The teams that are going to move on from this round, in my opinion, are the ones with the good offense, the great offenses, and at least a decent defenses. So the ones I'm thinking of.
Don't spoil it. We're talking about that later this week.
Shoot. Well, the takeaways from this week. Browns are great, and if they get it rolling fast, it's hard to come back because, like you said, and I just watched like the preview for the Browns Chiefs, and that's how I found out they had statistically the best offensive line.
Yeah, crazy.
So the thing about that, just get the game going, especially with the defense, because it seems like the offense can just keep rolling. So just create space for your offense to work with.
Yep. My one takeaway is probably everybody turn on your television when Bucs Saints comes on. We talked about a lot about, especially the NFL's talked about a lot, how third matchup, the Saints are 2-0 this year against Brady's Bucs, and the last time they just got obliterated. I am so excited to see what happens in the Superdome. That is going to be a fun game to watch. But we'll come out with our predictions on that later. We're going to pull something out, but before we do that, Cayman, hit us with our verse for the week.
Proverbs 1:7, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. Right this time. Woo!
There we go. You caught yourself. So what you got to pull out of your back?
E from and rolling into in.
Okay. That's understandable. All right. What you got to pull out of your background, man?
All right. Well, it's a Packers jacket, hoodie.
Oh, okay.
Gotta love them, man. It's too big for
Cool.
me right now, but I'll go into it.
Gotcha. Yeah, for me, I went to a Five Below a long time with some friends from school, and I got this, which is this thick. College Football Encyclopedia details every season from 1953 up to 2007. Every team's record, game summaries of all the biggest games, all the best players from every college. This thing's stinking gigantic, and it costs $5. So that book I have read quite often looking back on college football season. So that is always a fun read for me, because every time I open it, there's something I haven't read yet, because that book is like 1,000, 2,000 pages long. But yeah, that's going to wrap us up, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching another episode. We'll be sure to come out with some more lightning power. Brett D, thanks for tuning in. In the comments, let us know what you thought about your favorite teams this week if they were playing, and if not, what surprised you from Wild Card Week. We'd love to hear your opinion, and we're pretty frequent talking in the comment section as well, so be sure to listen to that. I'm AJ Herschel. That wrong way is Caveman Bauer. We'll see you guys next time on the one and only Allied Rivals podcast. Have a good morning, noon, night, whatever. See you guys later.
See ya.